This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the #1 website platform for entrepreneurs.
I just got an email from Viltrox confirming the price of their new 85mm 1.4. This lens is only $600. Okay. The Sigma 85 1.4 has been my bread and butter lens since it launched. I don't think I've recommended a lens for portraits more than the Sigma 85 for Sony. This lens is $1,300. The Sony G Master, the Sony G Master is 3 times the price of the Viltrox, and the Sigma is more than double, slightly more than double than the Viltrox. With the short time that I've had with the Viltrox, it is better in almost every single way than the Sigma so far. That's tough.
Searching for the way to go, searching for the light to show. If you only knew I missed you so. Searching for the way to go, searching for the light to show. If you only knew I missed you so.
All right, first things first. Can we just take a moment and acknowledge the transformation that Viltrox has made in just the past couple of years? This is the first lens that I've used since the 85 1.8 on the Z9, which was like 4 years ago. And oh my God, they just really hit a glow up phase for sure. Now let's talk about the image quality. Now between the Viltrox and the Sigma 85 1.4, I found very few differences between the lenses. I found that they render almost identical. You know, both are tack sharp. Both, I wouldn't say one is better than the other. You know, both give you that clinically sharp, contrasty look. You know, both have 11 aperture blades. Both give you that beautiful, soft backgrounds. If I had to say, I would give the edge to the background softness to the Sigma slightly, just because I feel like the background, the bokeh balls are slightly smoother on the Sigma. But other than that, the Viltrox is slightly more zoomed in than the Sigma. But that is literally the only other difference that I found. Now, I tried to shoot some more comparison photos using off-camera flash, but of course, the Chicago wind, it's gotta humble me out there. I was looking like a fool, okay? It's always awkward when your modifier just falls to the ground. You gotta try to play it cool, you know? But speaking of off-camera flash, I just released my off-camera flash mini course, and you can buy it right now for $99 for launch week. I know off-camera lighting can be very intimidating, but let me show you the way. Link is in description. All right, now what about autofocus? I find both of these lenses to be pretty snappy, pretty good. I feel the Viltrox might be slightly snappier, but there is a quirk to it that I need to talk about. Now, moving autofocus test where I had Tatiana walk away and towards the camera, the Viltrox had 24 out of the 30 shots in focus. The Sigma had 15 out of 22 shots in focus. So obviously working out the percentage, Viltrox is more accurate, but I find both to be pretty good. I think it's a wash. For video autofocus overall, I think it's a wash. Both are pretty reliable. I would say the one thing that I don't like about the Viltrox autofocus is that when it can't find a focus, or when you're focusing on something that doesn't have a lot of contrast, it starts to pulse pretty violently. So the elements inside the lens, or the drive, I'm not sure exactly the technical term for it, but when it can't focus, I mean, you could feel the jerk in your hand. Pause. You could feel it shake. Where with the Sigma, when I'm trying to focus on the same thing, it's still gonna hunt, but it's not gonna shake the entire the lens. You know, you can feel it in your hand. Now for build quality, the Viltrox is 800 grams and it is noticeably bigger than the Sigma. I love the fact that the Sigma is a very small 85 1.4. But the one thing I don't like about the Sigma that I always complain about, and you could check back, I always complain about this. There's an edge right here. It's a sharp edge. This lens on this camera, and I don't even have that big a hand, you know what I'm saying? But like when I hold the camera, it rubs up against my knuckles. And it's not a pleasant feeling. So although this lens is slightly larger, I'm grateful that it does not rub up against my knuckles. The Viltrox has 15 elements in 11 groups. The minimum focusing distance is 0.79, which is slightly closer than the Sigma. Both lenses have a 77mm filter thread, right? On the Viltrox, you have a focusing ring, a custom button, an aperture ring click switch. And also when you take off the lens here, you will see a USB upgrade port right here on the barrel. Now, what about for video? I would say the Viltrox has a couple of advantages. The first one being that it controls focus breathing much better than the Sigma. And because third-party lenses specifically, they're not supported by Sony's in-camera focus breathing compensation. That's like one of those exclusivity things that keep close to the chest. This is gonna be important for video shooters. Another big one is the Viltrox has a much shorter focus throw when you're manual focusing versus on the Sigma. You gotta do two turns here to get to infinity versus on the Viltrox, it's just a quick little. Now this video would not be possible without today's sponsor, and that's Squarespace. So if you are looking to start a website, blog, or online store, you have to give Squarespace a shot, okay? If you're using your social media as your portfolio, like that's straight up amateur hour, you're literally doing it backwards. And the quality of your work is degraded. With Squarespace, you can get your own custom domain and create a professional looking website fast and easy. You don't need any coding or graphic design skills, which I absolutely don't have. They have 24/7 customer support. If you got a side hustle, you can start an online store like I did and make passive income while you sleep. Recently, I just started my off-camera flash course on Squarespace.
And using one of their new features called Design Intelligence, setting up the course and creating the landing page was a breeze.
So if you want to check out Squarespace for yourself, make sure to use the coupon code Manny and you will get 10% off your first purchase. So what is it that I don't like about this lens? I would say one of the few things that I don't like is when you have the lens and you have it off the camera and the camera's off, you can hear this. Look, listen. The elements in the lens will bounce and you could hear it. And a lot of lenses do this, but this one is a little bit louder, a little bit more, you could feel it in your hand than other lenses. Not the biggest deal, it's just something that I noticed. I just saw a flash. What was that? The other thing is how the lens vibrates when it can't find focus, and it vibrates pretty violently like I spoke of. But other than that, like truly, like it's really hard to beat the value of this lens for $600. Like I briefly looked online and saw that there were some other options in that price range that I've never even seen before. So they have a Mikey and a Sirui 85 1.4s. I've never used those lenses, but all I can say that considering how it performed against the Sigma, which has been my #1 portrait lens, I have zero issues with that lens. I see zero reasons why this isn't the new king of value. And I personally, I wouldn't hesitate not one single bit using this as my main portrait lens for Sony moving forward. If you don't already own an 85 1.4 and you don't shoot any kind of sports or anything really fast moving, G Master is always gonna be best for tracking. But if you're not doing that, this is absolutely the lens to get right now.
I know.